Hey everyone, it is Thursday. It is not a UFC event week, and we are all in a relatively good mood, which means that it's time for the MMA Depressed Us, the show where we slowly break down our will to live by putting ourselves through the worst fights we can find. I'm Zane Simon, joined by Connor Rebish and Phil McKenzie, as always. And this week we are going to be watching Gilbert Melendez versus Shinya Aoki from UFC Strikeforce Nashville.
Truly an appropriate measure to do one of these shows, because we are going to be receiving such a fantastic boon in UFC 211 that we have to flagellate ourselves in order to keep our karma balanced.
Yeah.
Also, we're going back to Nashville.
That's right.
Just been there.
It's shockingly relevant, which is always important for us, I think.
Oh yeah, our primary concern, really.
It's relevance.
Also, I got to say, Connor, I don't really think that monks go in for karma. Not Western monks. Eastern.
It's a kind of a mixed system. I'm sort of a cosmopolitan MMA monk. Yeah, I just know that this whole episode I'm going to be muting my mic and just whispering to myself, I don't deserve UFC 211. I don't deserve UFC 211 as we watch these fights.
Whipping yourself with the hookah end.
Yeah. I'm actually, what I'm doing is, because I have a very convenient way of kind of lazily flagellating myself, I just drop cat treats down the back of my shirt and let the kitten just scrabble all over my fucking back and just scratch it up. I mean, she'll do it anyway, but I want more of it.
A walking BuzzFeed article, man.
See, I think we just opened a different window into your life right there that had nothing to do with it.
Listen, okay, whether or not a man enjoys his flagellation is not part of the point, okay? It's that you're punishing yourself, okay?
Okay, yeah. Well, so on our way to getting to Melendez Aoki, a fight that frankly is so weirdly misplaced in my mind that I can barely even remember it, and I think makes it totally appropriate because Melendez and Aoki are both awesome action fighters we all love, and I can't see this fight being bad. We'll be starting out with a fight I've been pushing for as our good-bad fight for a few episodes now, and Connor and Phil have been loath to indulge me on it, so I'm happy to make them. Fabricio Werdum versus Travis Browne 2 from UFC 203, which is one of the most obvious shit shows I can remember in recent UFC history. And and not like shit show like, oh, just nothing happening, Roy Nelson versus Jared Rosholt shit show, but just a fight where you're like, are these guys even trying? Is anyone interested in fighting in this fight at all? Probably not. But so we're starting out with that, and then it can't be a disappointment because we saw it the first time and we knew it was going to be bad going in.
I got to see it live, and that flying sidekick to the face in round 1 was just about the greatest thing I've ever seen sitting live in an arena.
And then we will be breaking this up in the middle with some pride action. Kazushi Sakuraba versus Gilles Arsene, I'm going to say, because it's French, and I don't know how to pronounce French, so that's my best guess. And that is a fight that, so we're going to be spanning, we're really getting into the whole the love of Fight Pass idea, where we're going from UFC to Pride to Strikeforce and broadening our reach a little. So hopefully this should be a lot of fun, and it almost certainly won't be. On that note, so yeah, Connor will be trying to deliver us into each of these with a countdown. Well, I'll be delivering us into each video with the countdown, I should say, and Connor will be delivering us into round 1 with a starting now when the ref slaps his hands, does his Cecil Peoples chop, or says, let's get it on, or whatever. And we'll be using only Fight Pass videos for this, so you can queue up these fights on Fight Pass. It's Werdum Browne from UFC 203, Sakuraba Arsene, Arsene from Pride 23, and Gilbert Melendez versus Shinya Aoki from Strikeforce Nashville, if you want to follow along as we broadcast. Otherwise, trying to remember if I had any other things I needed to say before we get into the show.
Stop dawdling, Zane. You know, you're trying to fight the inevitable.
I am trying to fight the inevitable.
It's time for bad fights.
Okay, so we're starting out with Fabricio Werdum versus Travis Browne. It's our first one, and we are going to be starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Alrighty.
Man, I feel like we knew from having seen this fight already that Travis Browne was just not going to have an answer for Fabricio Werdum at all. But the fact that Fabricio Werdum gave him like 2 totally different, terrible looks at himself, and Travis Browne was just as confused by both of them, was really kind of the mind-blowing thing for me in this fight.
It was like Werdum deliberately not learning from his loss to Stipe Miocic. It was like, okay, now I fucked up when I thought I could just run after Miocic and force exchanges with no care for my chin. But I can do that to Travis Browne. And so that's kind of what he does through long portions of this fight, is just kind of allow Travis Browne to hit him and somehow still embarrass Travis Browne on the feet.
Yeah, it was basically like, I need this as a fight to get my confidence back.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna act like this is, you know, just there's no way anything can possibly happen to me. Like, and then I will be right.
It was the prototypical fighting the video game in training mode, like the fighting video game in training mode, where it only throws one punch, and as long as you know what that one punch is, you can just do whatever moves you want, as poorly executed as you want.
You can almost see at times Werdum like working his way through the proper button combination to make the right move happen. He's like, no, that wasn't it. Shit. Okay, it's square X, square. Okay, you got it diagonal, let down and then right. And you can't really get it, but he's
the flying side kick to start, I think, is like the perfect example of that, because it was like he did it right the first time, and then it was like, how do I do that again? I can't even remember.
Where's my goddamn move list? Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, because the first fight was, you know, there were moments of like contempt or embarrassment, you know, like, you know, the flipping up from his feet and pointing at the ground, and, you know, general like doom troll stuff, but like not like this. It wasn't like this fight. This fight, like the last fight was, it was kind of a lot of it was a straightforward, just out kickboxing.
Yeah,
like it was you know,
good,
quite classic.
Fine, it was a fine performance from Werdum to show that he could just beat Travis Browne, and it was not a big deal.
The first fight was super fun to me. I loved the first fight. The first fight was Werdum just pulling Travis Browne's pants down in front of everybody. Yep. This fight is somehow Werdum struggling to pull down Travis Browne's pants, but it is revealed that he's wearing a diaper underneath. It's worse from Werdum, but somehow 10 times more embarrassing for Travis Browne.
No, he pulls them down. He just kind of falls down at the same time this time.
or maybe he doesn't quite get to pull them down, and Travis Browne's like, "Oh, I'll pull them down myself. That's fine."
Travis, I got you, buddy. He just rips them off. Way to go, Trav. We also, unfortunately, we're going to be watching this mostly on mute, but if you're listening, you will get to enjoy the lovely soundtrack of Edmund Tarverdian's Desperate Screams. In fact, yes. I recommend that you put on Fight Pass the other audio for this fight and listen to Tarverdian's corner advice, because it is some of his best work.
It's become the thing to, like, in any fight with a Tarverdian fighter, you just... every time there is one, I'm always waiting for the corner audio to get released afterwards so we can transcribe it and just enjoy every minute of it.
Certain corners, you got to do it, man, for the lulls. Like, you got to do Tarverdian in the corner. If the Diaz's are in a corner, you know you got to transcribe that audio.
Sarah Longo.
Sure, yeah. You just can't miss when Travis Browne or Ronda Rousey is fighting. Edmund Tarverdian is going to have such sweet, desperate rage in the corner as he watches them like not use all of the boxing skills he hasn't granted them.
Yeah.
Oh man,
there's always that.
Oh,
There's
sorry.
always that point where his vocal cords just explode.
Yeah.
And he just start like little whistling noises just start coming out when he's trying to talk. It's amazing.
Please. Yeah, it is actually like, there's quite a lot of pathos in the Taverdian corner, like just the desperation, man. Just him just like him like it's like you can sense that he feels that his fighter is somehow emasculating him, and then he just digs the hole further by like squealing and screaming like a maniac. It's
I gotta say too, after the Anthony Johnson fight, unfortunately he retired, which that means that we'll have to pay more attention to when this is better applicable. But the corner audio from Henry Hooft in that Anthony Johnson fight was pretty
priceless.
amazing too.
Anytime Henry Hooft is like disappointed, he is the best disappointed coach in all of MMA. He gets so frustrated. I will say, by the way, since we're talking about it, that Henry Hooft did a good job of controlling his disappointment in that fight. Like in the corner, he's like, "What the fuck is going on, man?" But when Anthony Johnson came back, he was like, "I'm not going to say anything. You guys talk." And he was like, "Why are you wrestling? You don't have to wrestle. You can win this fight." And then he goes back and starts wrestling, and he's like, "Fuck me!" Like he's quietly angry the moment Anthony Johnson's out of earshot.
I love why does this always happen at the
Why
end?
is it the same thing
Always
every
the same
time? Yeah.
Love it.
Oh. So yeah, I'm prepared for a good time, which is a good way to start. Like we always need. I think it's important for us to start off on a really happy note, and then we slowly pull it all apart over time.
It's like we always compare these fights to like B movies, but the way we set this up is like one of those 24-hour B movie festivals where you just struggle to stay awake, and like the first movie of the night is like Trolls 2. So you're like, "Oh, this is great." And then like the second movie is Plan 9, and you're like, "Oh, I'm getting tired." And then you end on like Manos, The Hands of Fate, and you just don't want to be there anymore.
Oh.
In fact, I think that Manos, The Hands of Fate is a lot more entertaining than some of the fights we've seen in this show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe Red Zone Cuba. Have you seen Red Zone?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that might be a better one.
My recommendation
would really a struggle.
My recommendation would be the Rollerblade 7. It's like a post-apocalyptic Mad Max, but with rollerblades and roller skates. And it's got like
that sounds amazing, though.
Frank's. It's much worse than you. It was made by a cult, as far as I can tell. Like it's much worse than you think it is. It's always like I've seen it a few times because I've showed it to other people, and it's always worse than I remember it being.
That is a mind that is worth delving into for like bad action-filled 80s movies. Is just all of the Mad Max ripoffs.
Oh, I love Mad Max ripoffs. Those things.
Have we got to start?
In a moment, yeah. We got the second introduction from. Yeah, Raiders from Atlantis is a good one.
Mini Brock.
Okay, you ready?
So
Fight starts.
Out there. Wait a minute. How come mine slides so much earlier than yours?
Fight starts. You can queue up with the first round with us, Phil. Fight starts.
Whoa! Yeah. I'm already past it now.
You are?
Yeah.
How is this possible? Do we have different videos going?
I don't think so.
God damn it.
Okay,
all
so
right, let's go back. We're live, so let's re-queue with the start of round 1, okay?
Okay.
Wait a minute, my fight. It might be that my fight pass. It might be my fight pass is being weird because it seems to have.
Sometimes it jumps.
I'm unable to select where I. Yeah, no, I'm unable to select where I play.
We don't get to see the round start. I'm starting from the point where I am at the moment where Travis Browne is stepping forward as the fight is starting.
Okay, give me one sec.
So you see Werdum step forward, and you see Browne step forward. I'm at where Browne steps forward. It's at 23:53. It should not. It's these are all the same length. So everybody.
That's weird. My one.
Yeah. 23:53 is when the ref says go. Like Werdum gives a nod.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Are you on Werdum Browne 1?
No. I think the issue was that I think my internet might have cut out for a second because I lost you guys on the chat for a second, but it seems like Fight Pass kept like buffering somehow once it was doing it, which was strange.
Well, maybe
I'm on it.
if it had the video already loaded, then
Yeah.
Woo, what an
I don't know, it
appropriate
was weird.
tone to set for a show that's all about bad things happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting on Fight Pass. The clock reads 23:53.
Yep.
Ready? Zane, you want to count us down?
Is everybody, Philly, you set?
Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. All right.
Ooh! You don't even have time to react to it. It's the very first thing he does.
It's beautiful. And then this fight just is like everything else about this fight is a mess from that point forward.
Like, it's not just like a janky, weird like fight. It's all the weird like outside the cage stuff. Not even just the front kick at the end. Like the timeout.
Oh man. And
can't remember when that
as
was.
you say, Werdum very obviously showing he learned nothing from the Miocic fight. Just immediately like, I'll charge forward, throwing both hands at the same time.
The first thing he does is like a 5-punch shift combo, just feet out of position, chin in the air, both hands punching. Yep, it's the first thing he does after the sidekick.
Oh man.
Werdum is a very capable heavyweight boxer when he doesn't care about knocking you out. Like seriously, when he doesn't care about, oh my god,
The cartwheel kick,
the rolling thunder,
the rolling thunder. Oh,
Which was more of just a kind of flop. Like,
it was heat thunder.
yeah.
it was
Just a little muffled flash.
it was a flop, but it also kind of landed.
Yeah.
It's pretty embarrassing that he managed to hit Travis Browne's neck with that.
Oh, Travis
Oh,
Browne
time out.
talking about his gloves broken, and Werdum just hits him anyway.
Well, he
I
should have
just
hit
hit
him. There's
his finger.
absolutely, yeah, he hurt his hand.
That's
I
right.
remember live. I was screaming
That's
in
a
the crowd.
TKO.
Yeah, I was like, that's a TKO. I was screaming. I was like, why does he get to call timeout because he hurt his hand?
Oh, that's right.
Werdum absolutely should have rushed him and hit him with punches.
Well, I mean, it should have just been a TKO the minute he called time. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his submission.
but
he
Yeah,
gets
the
to keep going because why not?
yeah,
By the way, the dude next to me at this show loved this doctor in the blue. He called her the thirstiest doctor he'd ever seen. She was like, every single time a fight was coming up, she would be in there looking at the fighters on the like whatever motor oil sponsored prep area, and she would be so into what was going on with the fighters as they were taking off their shirts. She was, if you want to rewatch this event, that is an Easter egg to keep your eye on, is how into the fighting this doctor in blue is.
Oh, there's Werdum just going out and like putting it on Travis Browne for no real reason. Like,
Right.
It's not that he's not functional and a good kickboxer. Werdum is, but Browne is just like,
He doesn't have to do this. Like, he didn't do this in the first fight, and he shut Browne out. Like, he doesn't have to run after him with crazy punches.
and Browne is just watching it. He's just like, it's like if Conor McGregor, it's like if Conor McGregor never threw punches and just bounced in place, and that was all he did with like the strongman pose.
you know what it is? It's what's his face? It's the ginger guy that we saw that you interviewed, but with with an understanding of distance.
Jimmy Rivera?
No,
Got me so confused now.
we watched.
I know.
Remember, we watched him coming up short on every punch he threw.
Matt Riddle?
Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle, yeah, it's just like kind of Matt Riddle combinations, but he just knows how to land them. He's just like charging in with the punch after punch after punch, wheel kick.
This is Matt. This is like the way Werdum approaches this fight is Matt Riddle winning that Sean Pearson fight. Imagine the embarrassment you would feel knowing what Matt Riddle was capable of and then watching him beat you with striking.
Hey, Travis Browne actually landed a jab in there, and now continues to throw nothing of any consequence. Lots of feints.
Yeah. So let's talk about Travis Browne's athleticism, which is always like the big selling point. I'm going to be honest. I've never thought that Travis Browne was like particularly slick or smooth. Like you could say he bounces around well for a guy who's that size.
Yeah,
but
he's light on his feet, and he's fast for somebody who is his size, and he doesn't tend like he gets tired, but he doesn't get tired at the rate for somebody who moves like he does. Like
so really, like the look how athletic he is was always just like look how well he oh Jesus Christ.
Just putting it on Browne.
It's like, look how inefficient he is, and yet how capable he is of continuing to be inefficient. Like that is Travis Browne's athletic ability. That's where it comes from.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's the thing with, and the thing is that it's also like that alone has been enough to make him a top 10 heavyweight.
Yeah. By the way, we should mention, like, I don't think we've had a single show where we haven't done a heavyweight fight.
It's the bedrock of a show like this.
Yeah. Which just tells you, like, all of that instant excitement you get just because of fights in the heavyweight division, if you still have that feeling with MMA, it's not appropriate. Like, the division itself is not a guarantee of a good fight. Even half the ones that end in knockout are terrible.
On the other hand, like, have we ever seen, like, how many fights we've never watched a fight in bantamweight, have we? Have we ever watched a really terrible bantamweight fight?
There are basically no bad bantamweight fights. There are very few.
Very few.
I can think of one, and it's really obscure. It was like LC Davis against Toro Savicius back in WEC, back in WEC.
Yeah,
like it was just wrestling.
That is super obscure.
That's like, I was racking my brains. Like, again, have we seen like a bad featherweight fight?
John Dodson, Eddie Wineland at some point, maybe, but you know, like it doesn't have that same passion to it of like, this is the most miserable thing I've ever watched in my life.
And even there, like, it was a slow fight, but it was like that
replay.
It was a slow. Oh my God. The way that Travis Browne's body reacts when he's hit hard is just comical. Like the way that his arms just go splaying out involuntarily the moment his chin is touched. Oh, so do you think the referee thought he had an issue with his glove?
I think that must have been what happened. Is that Travis Browne was pointing at his hand, and everybody's like, "Oh, his glove! He's got an equipment failure, so we should stop it." And he's like, "No, I've got a medical problem," and they're like, "Oh, well, I guess we'll just keep going then once we fix it."
I'm not sure that Browne didn't think he had a problem with his glove, because in these kind of situations, like, people don't feel pain a whole lot.
Terrible takedown.
And I feel like he might have literally just been like, "Holy shit, something weird is happening with my hand. My glove must be fucked." Like, I think there's a solid chance he was.
Oh, that wheel kick to the head that Werdum just falls on his butt afterward.
Does Werdum think this is cool? Like,
I think he does. I think he thinks it's really fucking cool.
Like, because you can never tell. Like, a lot of the time, fighters, they think they're in like either these fight of the night fights and they're not, or they're in these super competitive wars and they're just getting their ass handed to them. Like, does he think he's fighting like a super cool ninja who's just like, because he just looks like a kind of slightly fat guy who's just landing like these sort of slightly flopping like strikes on a guy who looks completely lost.
Yeah, it's that short video of the dude trying to back fist the punching dummy where he like kind of falls over, but it's like if he landed that back fist, it's that essentially.
Yep.
Werdum is Afro Ninja.
Oh, and Browne, like, through all this, there's just nothing coming back at him at all. Every now and then, Browne will land a strike, and you're like, "Oh, that actually looked okay," and then.
Yeah, like what do you think is going through Travis Browne's mind here? Like, is he trying to overcome the hurdle of Werdum just being able to hit him? Because he seems to be, he has the initiative here. Like, he's pushing forward, but he's not really feinting. He's not really throwing. He's just posturing.
Yeah.
And
did,
Werdum
this
is just like
forward
letting
little
him
shoulder
posture.
shuffle thing that led to nothing.
Well,
He tried to like fake the distance by leaning his head forward, but when Werdum threw, all he had was like a desperate improvised roll to escape punishment. Like, you do that when you have an idea for a counter. Like, you want the guy to throw so you can do something, right? You don't just do it because it's cool when your chin is close and then it's not close anymore.
That overhand he threw there is just like...
I think the problem with Browne is that he really wants to be a counterpuncher, but like, this is the thing, like, if you want to be a counterpuncher and you're struggling with a guy who is charging at you throwing 4-punch combinations with his chin in the air, like, maybe you're not meant to be a counterpuncher.
You need to have someone capable of teaching you how to counterpunch, which is the problem. Like, he has a lot of confidence in his boxing now because of Taverdian, who focuses mostly on boxing as far as I can tell. But the biggest thing I always look at with guys with guys' defensive moves and their counters does it look improvised or does it look systematic?
Oh, that back fist.
And with Browne, it's clearly all improvised. Like, he doesn't have any set patterns that he's looking for.
Yeah.
He will like give an opening, and then Werdum will attack the opening with the most predictable punch, which is the jab, like the one you can usually expect when you give someone a small opening, and he doesn't have a prepared counter for it. He's like, he sees it coming, he's like, oh shit, like he's not ready for it, and he's not ready to do something after it comes.
Yeah, it sucks because watching this, like, you can see there are nice strikes coming from Browne in these set situations. Like, he hit this nice little sort of shovel left hook in an exchange, and
he's got an okay left hook, he's got a decent jab, he's got a really good uppercut, but like, he just has no way. He fights like a counterpuncher, but is just waiting, and he has no way of making those shots happen, of creating the openings for them.
And so at this point, like, Werdum is just kind of checked out to the most basic kickboxing Werdum, and it's just completely outworking him. Like, we have gotten the nuts and bolts, I can do functional basics Werdum, and Travis Browne's
they're
like...
both gassed. And they're both gassed at this point.
Yeah, they're both exhausted. By the way, I don't think Werdum looks as cool as he thinks he does, as we were saying before. But I think he may have convinced Travis Browne that he's really cool. And I think that... Oh, my God.
What was that supposed to be?
Why not, right? Just go for it.
Rolling Thunder to wheel kick.
It actually makes absolute sense, because Browne is already being like shocked into inactivity by jabs. He doesn't have prepared counters for the jab. You know, the punch that George Benton said there are 80 counters to. So like, it makes absolute sense to just throw crazy shit at him, because he's just going to shut down. He's not going to respond to something that he never expected would come.
Oh yeah, he's totally on tilt. Like, you know, the lights are flashing. Like, there's no one home. He's just like, oh my God, what is he doing? He's clearly
in the corner,
the thing is,
slapping him and getting all angry, and you know that it's nothing. It's just nonsense. Even though you can't hear it, we don't have the sound on. It's just going to be total nonsense.
Also insanely a lot of Taverdian telling Browne that he's winning and that he's gonna knock this motherfucker out.
Travis.
He's like, he's got nothing. He's got nothing. It's like, how do you tell your dude he's got nothing? Like, how is that going to help him when he's just been easily outpointed for 10 minutes straight?
Total strikes in round 1, 88.
88 to 15
in a heavyweight fight.
Oh my God.
Oh. No, man.
You could see glimmers, by the way, of what Browne is really good at, which is a long-range kicking game.
Yeah.
Like, the body kicks he's landing are really nice. A couple of nice quick... He's got quick legs, you know, so... And sets a long distance because of his frame. But it's clear that he's just latched onto the idea of being a boxer, and he's just not that good at it.
No.
I think he could be better.
Oh, sure.
But with Taverdian, I mean, he wasn't good at it at Jackson Winklejohn. He's more committed and yet somehow worse with Taverdian to the idea of boxing.
The thing is, what is his counterpunch? Like, he's got a reasonable like right uppercut.
Yeah, his uppercut's very powerful and very short.
Unless you're going to be like phase shifting on him, which Werdum is completely uninterested in. Like it's never gonna happen. So like he just doesn't seem to. It's like I'm gonna counterpunch, and then he's got to ask the question like, with what?
Yeah. With what and how? Like, what are the things you look for that you know your counterpunch is open? Like, for example, Werdum throws. Oh my God, Werdum throws his jab. He comes forward. He's bent forward. You could slip that jab and uppercut counter it, and Werdum would fall into it a little bit. Like that would be a reasonable opportunity to look for it. Travis Browne hasn't attempted it once. Like he can't. He has nothing that he's keying in on. There are no triggers.
It's Werdum 1-2 low kick Werdum. Like that's all we're seeing out of Werdum here. Oh, that single leg.
The laziest snatch single that he almost got.
I think he was just, I think he really was just fucking with him. Like, look, he just wanted that. He's obviously like practiced that in training, right?
Yeah.
Like snatch single or huge lumbering head kick. I'm TJ Dillashaw.
I'm Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just love how lazily he went for the single. Like it was an absolute mockery of Travis that he could just step forward, reach down, and grab his knee.
And Travis was like, I guess he's gonna go for my knee. Yeah. I'll just whatever.
And I think you're right, Phil. Like that exchange we just saw, I think Travis Browne does want to be a counterpuncher, but how is that not the opportunity you seize on? Werdum comes forward with 2 shifts in a row, his chin getting higher with each punch, both hands away from his chin. How do you not think this is my time to throw a short right hand over the top?
No, he's got to have more jabs that are way too short.
It's just baffling, man. It kind of makes me sad. Like now that we're watching it, like knowing the talent that Travis Browne has and knowing just how brutally he has been beaten up in every fight since going to Glendale Fight Club. Oh my God.
Got hit so hard with that right hand. Werdum was like leg kick right hand. Travis was like, oh shit. Wait. What's this coming at me? Dude, you got to warn me.
He looked for the uppercut, not on the counter, but he looked for it. It is probably his hardest. Ooh, there was a nice little.
Yeah, there we go. Travis Browne actually not short arming some stuff and landing.
And pushing him back with some kicks.
And that's the thing. It's like the moment Travis Browne's like, oh, maybe I should actually throw some combinations and step forward with some offense. There's offense there to be had.
Yeah, it almost seems like
Werdum is a.
Go on, Phil.
Yeah, he is a well-known, terrible defensive fighter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Ooh. Yeah.
Travis Browne getting some stuff in. Perfect. It is almost like he's trying to, like he has just now realized that maybe counterpunching isn't working, so he's actually stepping forward when he punches, and that's literally all he needed to hit Fabricio Werdum.
But while you were talking there, we missed the scissor heel hook takedown attempt from Fabricio Werdum, where he literally tried to do the Rio Chonin sort of.
We are having a very strong last minute and a half from Travis. There was a counter hook.
Yeah, he landed a counter punch, a proper one.
It was really nice. I mean, he got hit with the punch that he was countering, but he still countered it. That's the first step. Look, I think it's really because he was just terrified of Werdum's range. Like he was just pulling everything and pulling away every time he threw. Now he's stepping forward or planting his feet and he's landing.
I was like, Werdum has to do something wacky. It's been like a solid.
Werdum going for the flying knee like he was on a trampoline, just like hop in place, flying knee.
Travis Browne clearly won the last 2 minutes of that round, and easily.
Yeah.
And still clearly lost the fight.
Yeah, like I know he can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
At least I gained some hope from the Derek Lewis fight, in which he had a smart game plan.
Yeah, but I don't know if you remember before that Derek Lewis fight, I tweeted out that Travis Browne was ready for banging, but not swanging.
He wasn't fully prepared.
He was not at all prepared for swanging.
No.
Because, he was ready to bang with Derek Lewis. He hit him in the gut and had him hurt bad. And then Derek Lewis was just like, oh, I guess I have to just charge at him and create some real offense. And then we got non-counter punch Travis Browne, who's like, oh my god, wait, punches coming at me? That's not cool. That was not part of the plan here.
Oh,
Like,
I love that. I love
I
that.
know
Hilarious.
I know people
Sorry.
like Derek Lewis, but he did not deserve to win that fight at all.
He looked awful.
Not even slightly.
He looked so
He
bad.
looked like fucking trash in that fight. And like people were like, no, but he made adjustments in the second round. No, he didn't. He didn't make any adjustments at all. Oh, sorry, I missed it.
Oh,
brilliant.
Post-fight fight as Fabricio Werdum.
I love the energy in Verdum's. He almost gets into a fight with his corner man. He was so.
Werdum is a guy who has dropped in popularity somewhat in recent years. And I have to say, he does deserve it. He is a giant fucking bully. Like, the amount of people that he's gotten into, like, out of, like, he has random rivalries with, and it's clearly because he's tried bullying them because he's a heavyweight. It is, like John Jones, Luke Rockhold, like, he obviously goes around trying to start shit with people.
Yeah, I think Cordero has cultivated that, but properly. Like, Pat Wyman has talked about this, but like Werdum has become a more evil bastard over time, and it's because of Rafael Cordero, I think, training killer instinct into his fighters, something I think he does really well. Like, I think the main reason he's so good at turning grapplers. Was Travis Browne disappointed that he didn't get that win?
I think he was.
I think he was surprised to hear that.
He was legitimately, like, he walked out of that cage really quickly.
Very
strange.
That
is a terrible sign.
But I think one of the main reasons Cordero is so good at turning grapplers into great strikers is that he makes them mean. Like, he makes them feel like they can beat anybody up. And Werdum clearly has that now more than ever, and that he almost like. But by the way, I love the energy in his stance when he's ready to fight Edmund Taverdian. He's like bouncing. It's like suddenly all the energy that wasn't there for the last 3 minutes of the fight. He's like
a fighting game stance. Like the character bobbing up and down and getting
turned into a 16-bit sprite bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, you know what he really is at that point is he's a big Brazilian Jake Shields, basically. Like, he's the exact dude you don't expect to be a bullying hard ass outside of, like, the ring, because he's kind of clownish. And then it's just like all the time, everything you see out of him is like, you're gonna, like, you go after everybody, don't you?
Yeah. Jake Shields is fucking raw, dude. Like, Jake Shields does not back down from anybody. Now, he may look hilarious when he throws, like, the form with which Jake Shields throws a latte is exactly the form with which he throws a punch, but he's still.
I love how pissed Werdum was here at the ref. Did you see, like, how mad he is at the ref for stopping that?
He was just about to knock little tiny Brock Lesnar out. He was like, no one gets in between me and my prey. He was ready for that. By the way, it was, for those who didn't catch it, it was Travis Browne not knowing how to block an overhand and getting his finger jammed by Verdum's forearm as the punch came down and hit him on the chin. That's what, like, jammed his finger.
Yeah.
But it should have been a TKO. It should have been. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't, because I'm glad we got to see this horrible shit show of a fight, but it should have been like a TKO in 30 seconds of round one.
Yeah. It still amazes me watching that just how unprepared Browne was for any iteration of Fabricio Werdum.
How do you fight the guy once before, watch him get knocked out in his last fight, and have literally no idea how to fight him?
And, like, Werdum giving you all the crazy, stupid looks, and then some super boring nuts and bolts basic kickboxing looks that are just, like, the most unexciting, uninteresting thing possible. And Browne was just like, what is this? This is all mystery to me.
Yeah.
Little George Gurgel there. I'm happy that George Gurgel has a spot as the UFC's American-based Portuguese translator.
Yeah, that is good. That is good to see.
I was like, George used to train at his...
him.
Yeah, he used to train at his gym. He's a cool guy.
All right. So that brings us now to our second fight. We're going to dive right in. Obviously, we've got a lot more of this to do. And our second fight of the night, Kazushi of the show, Kazushi Sakuraba versus Gilles Arsene from Pride 2023, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. And I screwed up counting on my fingers because I am a fucking badass.
Oh, I used to love all of Pride's like promo packages before the fights. This is a little background, by the way. This is what Stephen Quadros is talking about, but this is basically intended as a tune-up fight for Sakuraba because he got knocked out in both of his fights before this. Once by Mirko Krokop, which he should never have been fighting, but Pride.
Yeah.
And I think by Vanderlei Silva. And then he got knocked out by Nino Schembri and Vanderlei Silva again after this fight. So it's this fight is Sakuraba's only win, spoilers, sandwiched between 2 crushing TKO losses. So a little bit of depressing air around this fight, which is perfect for the fight that you are about to see.
Yeah, man. I mean, it sucks so much because obviously part of what makes Sakuraba so great is that he fought all of these gigantic dudes.
Yeah.
But it is such a mismanaged career of such an incredible fighter.
Sakuraba is like a case study for why horrible pain and defeat and like depressing careers are necessary to the enjoyment of MMA or fight sports in general. That like you have to have really low lows to make the victories so satisfying and so inspiring. And
so first up, as we're getting into this fight, I don't want to cut you off, but this dude does not look ready to fight at all.
Oh, I think let's see what his record was before this. I think it's an absolute it's essentially like Krokop fighting who's the Lucha Libre wrestler.
Oh, Tiger Mask or something?
Yeah, I can't remember what his actual name was.
Yeah.
So he had before this fight, Gilles Arsene had 1 win and 1 fight. It was a submission over Kenji Arai at an event called France Regional. And that was his only fight before he had to fight Kazushi Sakuraba.
So how tall is Sakuraba?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me get ready for the round to start, and then I'll call it. Round 1 starts now. Let's look it up. Kazushi Sakuraba. We're going to have a lot of time to look up the background details during this fight. Sakuraba is, according to Wikipedia, 6 feet tall, 1.83 meters. By the way, we're all people who use some variant of the imperial system. I think we should make an argument that it is obviously better for day-to-day measurements than the metric system. Nobody's height should be measured in 1.83 meters because it is impossible to understand.
I agree.
Just a point. Imperial system is good for normal people's measurements.
Yeah. It is a much it is a functionally much easier thing for me to understand. But then again, you know, we come from the part of the world that is, you know, not backwards and terrible. Actually,
yeah.
I can't say that anymore. Like I used to be able to say that with a straight face.
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh man, Sakuraba.
Just wait. This is just because Gilles Arsene does not know what striking is. Most of the fight is not Sakuraba slapping Gilles Arsene with the insides of his gloves. Here we go.
See, like that's cool. Sakuraba putting a beating on some guy. I'm down for that. This is, you know, and I can pretend that I'm this Gilles Arsene guy because this is probably how I would handle fighting Kazushi Sakuraba.
Yeah.
So far, this looks like my functional strategy: the turtle up and just kind of pray for death.
Pray for death. Not even pray for life. Just pray for death. Let it be over.
Yeah. So, what would how would Kid Nate pronounce Gilles Arsene's name?
Gilles Arsene.
Yeah, Gilles Arsene.
It's Giles.
It would have been Giles. Giles Arsene would have been it. Yeah. Boy, I need to.
It sounds quite classy.
It kind of does. Giles Arsene is like a confidant that James Bond meets, like a British expat in Hong Kong.
Or maybe
Giles
like
Arsene.
Maybe like a gentleman adventurer from like a Victorian novel.
I love that. I think Sakuraba was kind of going for the like no arm in Darth choke there. Like it's just sort of like the from top mount. Here's just let me just kind of headlock you choke. Had nothing.
Was he going for an Ezekiel?
I don't think so.
How is Arsene's legs so messed up? Is that from one leg kick?
They probably had like the Japanese mob were like just beating him in the dressing room before this fight so they could get Sakuraba a win. You know how Pride was. Yeah.
This is the problem when you need pro wrestling outcomes from real fights.
Yes.
Is that you have to completely ensure. Okay.
He's just
Sakuraba, you're gonna get someone who's completely unprepared to fight you in, as a brief respite between, fighting light heavyweights and heavyweights.
Yeah, you can't approach it that way. You can give someone a favorable matchup, but that's a better, like, give them someone who is going to fight back but not well enough. If you give them someone who is just going to be utterly defensive and disinterested in fighting, very strong chance you're going to get an awful fight. I mean, I'm shocked that they didn't fix this fight. Like, you would expect that from Pride, that they would just pay Gilles Arsene to go out in quick and impressive fashion. Or maybe they did, and that's why we haven't. Maybe they did, and that's why we haven't heard from Gilles Arsene anymore after this. He was just killed by the mob.
They also say, classically too, if you fix a fight, you don't. At least in boxing, I know it's like you don't always tell the fighter that it's being fixed. Like you let someone else do the fixing, like a ref or the corner.
Well, first of all, you wouldn't get somebody who had no fights.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to throw a fight. But you wouldn't tell the guy who was winning.
Yeah.
You would tell the guy who was supposed to go down, so the guy who was winning would get to like put his full energy into it and look like he was destroying someone.
Well, or you don't even tell the guy who's supposed to go down. You just you're like, oh, if your guy gets hurt at all, cornerman, get up on the ring and like throw the towel in.
Sure, you could do that. Yeah. But that's not if you want a big, exciting outcome for your star to come back to get a comeback.
It's true.
You don't want it to end by somebody stepping into the ring and disqualifying Gilles Arsene.
It's true. Either way, this is.
You guys were excited by that first flurry. You're like, maybe it's going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Why is that? Yeah. What's up with the rules?
It's just MMA rules, just Pride rules.
Is he just slapping him because he wants to?
Yeah. That's a very.
Oh yeah, no, he is. Yeah, he can actually.
I think it's because he doesn't have a clear path and he knows the guy has nothing, so he's just like, maybe I'll just slap him to open up something.
Sakuraba was kind of a slapper over his career. It was just something he did.
He loved to like literally pull people's pants off in the fight and like slap them and throw like ridiculous jumping kicks to a grounded opponent that had no chance of landing because he went 6 feet into the air before making impact.
Oh, this is a grind, man.
So the reason why I was asking like how tall he is, I was wondering like who's bigger? Who do you think is bigger, Sakuraba or James Vick? Because I'm thinking it's probably Sakuraba, but it wouldn't be like.
I think James Vick might be 6 feet tall. I think they might be the same height.
Yeah, Vick I think is 6'1", maybe.
Yeah.
Wikipedia says Vick is 6'3".
6'3".
Jesus,
he's a lightweight.
How does he make lightweight?
Yeah,
he's not like a skeletal lightweight either.
No.
Either.
He
is on the scales. Part of it is though that Vic just has like he's got chicken legs.
He's lanky. He's not very thin, but he is lanky. But still, like it's definitely a different era of MMA when Sakuraba was fighting heavyweights. Whereas now they're in the UFC is a lightweight, a journeyman lightweight, who is 3 inches taller than him.
Yeah, it's it's partially just the thin waist, thin legs thing that takes a lot of weight out of somebody, but Yeah, it also, Sakuraba would have, at the very least, probably been a welterweight in a realistic modern MMA sphere.
Yeah. I think he'd be. I think he would be a. He would be a middle-sized to perhaps slightly small welterweight. I mean, especially if you consider.
Yeah.
Your ace limbs and so on.
Oh, see, what is that thing he's doing where he's going to the bicep from, like, just on top of the guy? Is that in Ezekiel? Because
I didn't see it.
Thing. Yeah.
It's
He'll
just
probably.
Sakuraba just looks bored.
We've got like 15 more minutes, so we'll probably see it again. I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah.
It's this is basically, I think, strong evidence that this is the end of Kazushi Sakuraba's prime. Like, he's got a guy who is not even really defending well, who is just defending. And while I usually give guys a pass for not like dominating someone who's just defensive, especially in grappling, I think somebody who knows what they're doing, it can be really difficult to look impressive when all they're interested in is surviving.
Now, am I wrong? Pride didn't allow elbows on the ground.
No,
right?
no elbows. Yeah.
So that is partially to explain too.
And I'm going to assume there were no kicks to the grounded opponent in this particular fight, because otherwise I would assume Sakuraba. Sometimes they did that.
That wasn't something that ever went away in Pride.
No, they did it for certain fights. You would agree to or not agree to allow the downed kicks sometimes.
Okay,
yeah, I would have thought that Sakuraba would just knee him in the head from side control, but
you think, just get north-south and just knee him in the top of the head?
Maybe because it was such a set-up fight that they knew he'd win, that they just, took it easy. Like, didn't make the guy subject to soccer kicks, because that would be cruelty.
I don't recall the particulars, but I know in certain fights they were like, there are no knees. Yeah. Usually it was when there was a big weight disadvantage, they would not allow kicks to a downed opponent.
Yeah,
like a big weight difference, but it's not this fight. Sometimes, though, it just wasn't in effect.
Also, that is a really sizable bandage on his knee.
Oh, God.
I don't know how that's...
And Sakuraba's knees have been trashed forever.
That's essentially Sakuraba's uniform, is the dramatic knee brace.
It's not even a brace this time. No. It's just a...
Yeah, it's almost like a signature, honestly, of Sakuraba's career, is just seeing him covered in tape. And sometimes it was like that like kinesthetic tape or whatever, like on his shoulders and on his elbows and on his knees. Like, he would just be, half of Sakuraba's fights, he would just be covered in shiny foil.
He's kind of a ghetto cyborg, He's
a MacGyver cyborg.
We didn't have actual machine parts to put to build him and make it. He's the $500.
The 6 million yen man.
6 million yen man, which is like $60. We couldn't find replacement cartilage, so we stuck some bubble gum in your knee joint. I hope that works.
Was it his last? It wasn't his last fight, because he had some other ones after it. But the last fight where I was like, "This is the last Sakuraba fight I'm ever going to watch," was the one where his ear fell off, and I was just like, "Oh man!" Like,
was that against? Oh my God, his career is so much longer than it should have been. Was that against Marius Zaromskis? That was a doctor stoppage.
Yeah,
I think so.
That was Zaromskis.
Just the exploding cauliflower ear.
The white man.
Yeah.
They'll
just be showing that same single.
Oh, yeah. It's the only interesting thing that happened in the entire round, and it wasn't really that interesting.
No, once you watch it in slow motion, you're like, okay, Sakuraba's slapping him in the head, and the guy's just like, no, please, let me down. Like I said, this is very much how I would fight Sakuraba.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That dude has some huge traps.
Oh my God.
There's some particular but I can't remember who it is. It's something like it's a weird fight between like Brandon Vera and Keith Jardine or something totally weird, where someone's got their heads down like that, and someone else throws like one of those combinations, those upwards kind of weird uppercuts trying to catch him, and just misses like 5 or 6 punches in a row. It is amazing. It's one of the best gifts of comedy striking. I think maybe we need. I'm going to see if I can find that just so we can add it to. It's going to be one of those things like the Batman versus Cheesecake Assassin
Oh yeah,
50-50
Igor
guard. It just
Rauch
makes an
was
entire
David.
fight.
Yeah, versus Danny Mitchell.
Yeah.
Where you watch a whole fight for one terrible, hilarious moment.
Gilles Arsene throwing punches. All it takes is one feint from Sakuraba, and he just, oh my god. Throw a knee, Sakuraba. Throw a knee.
Not only is this is this an example of how I would fight Sakuraba, but this is also Sakuraba is also fighting the way I would fight in general.
Yeah. Sakuraba is fighting the way you would fight you fighting Sakuraba.
Exactly.
That is perfect.
So yeah, it's basically like the day after tomorrow version, right? One of you's been trained up been training through like tons of cycles to learn how to do this, and has come out with this like slap heavy style, and the other one is just like it's their first time through the loop.
So Sakuraba is fighting in this fight the way the Swedish chef cooks.
The way animal drums.
Yes, or the way animal drums.
That's not day after tomorrow, is it, Phil? That's
Oh no, sorry, not day after tomorrow. Edge of tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, haven't seen that. Heard good things.
It's good. I preferred the book. He says. The Japanese short novella.
We don't get those in America, Phil. So stop bragging about it.
But yeah, I still I am wondering if something's going on with the rules because he didn't knee him at all and hasn't at any point, or maybe he's just like the only way I can lose this is if I knee him and my kneecap goes spinning off into the audience.
Yeah, maybe these are too bad to use functionally as weapons.
Yeah.
Considering he didn't use it in the clinch when he could have clearly kneed the guy in the face. Maybe it's just
exactly right. That's the So amazingly Sakuraba way to lose a fight.
Sakuraba, they're thinking about kissing him. I think that's more. He's like, do I just lean over and give him a smooch?
Just plant one on him. Yeah. So let me read to you a little bit from Wikipedia regarding the surroundings of this fight. After fighting Vanderlei Silva, that was when Sakuraba's collarbone popped out of his neck. Sakuraba took time off to let his shoulder heal, then returned against heavyweight kickboxer Mirko Krokop. Sakuraba was proposed a special rule set of no strikes on the ground as part of the K1 versus Pride theme, but he rejected the offer, not wanting any special rules for him. Ironically, though he managed to take Krokop down through hard kicks, Sakuraba would end up losing the match while exchanging strikes on Mirko's guard when an up kick from the kickboxer broke his orbital bone. Finally, assenting to place him in competition against fighters of his own weight class, Pride management put him against French Jiu-Jitsu champion Gilles Arsene in a bout Sakuraba dominated, and then against Rickson Gracie protege Antonio Schembri. With a win over Schembri, it was speculated that Sakuraba might be then groomed for a championship fight in a new weight division for fighters of his size. So basically, this is Pride thinking like, maybe we should let Sakuraba fight welterweights. But it was too late because they just let him get killed by light heavyweights and heavyweights for decades.
Yeah. And people were like, wow, this is kind of boring watching him fight welterweights. Welterweights are terrible.
There for a minute.
Yeah, he got some good posture punches.
Yeah.
Sakuraba finally maybe I should just why? If you're the ref watching this, that seems like a reasonable place to honestly just call this fight and be like, this dude doesn't want to fight. There's no reason to do this.
Especially because you're working for the promotion who clearly wants to make Sakuraba look good. So just stop it. It's a reasonable TKO. Sakuraba, by the way, is clearly becoming frustrated by how defensive Arsene is. Do you see that little gesture there? After he pounded him and then Arsene tried a desperate sweep and then covered up, Sakuraba looked to the crowd and was like, what the... I don't know what to do. He's like, I'm not good enough at striking to knock him out, but he's doing nothing. Here we go. So, yeah, no knees to the head there at all. I got to assume there's some kind of rule set in place.
Yeah, probably on behalf of the jiu-jitsu champ guy who was just like, this is the only way I'm going to take this fight.
Yeah, because this is the position that defines Pride, is landing knees to the top of the head from Turtle.
Yep.
And Sakuraba, by the way, is a guy who almost entirely depends on arm locks for his submission game. And I think it's really hard when you have somebody who's just covering their head really tightly and keeping their arms in tight every moment they spend on the ground with you.
And there was an elbow to the butt. Did you see that?
He's done that a few times.
A butt cheek elbow.
So, yeah. He's done a few to the abdomen as well. So, like...
You can elbow the body, I think, in Pride rules, just not the head.
Because they wanted to prevent cuts because they didn't like blood.
Japanese are weirdly squeamish. For being willing to watch Sakuraba endure all of the horrible shit that was done to him by Pride, they were very squeamish about blood. Which I'm like, honestly, I'd much rather see someone get cut than see Sakuraba's entire upper skeleton exploded by Vanderlei Silva.
And they still are. That's...
Yeah, didn't Rampage knock Liddell out with elbows to the body? Or do you think that was like no, it's not what he knocked him out with. But he certainly... I can't remember.
I think he definitely
I think it's him really messing him up with them.
Oh my god. There must be no knees, right? Yeah. Otherwise, why would you not just instantly grab the back of that dude's head and knee him in the... Oh my god.
And I like the way that you said there must be no knees has two meanings to it. Like,
there must be no knees in Kazushi Sakuraba's body.
You can even see he thought about throwing a kick there and was like, oh wait, no, I better not. So it may have just been like...
Sakuraba was a good kicker too, man.
Oh yeah, he was a very good kicker.
He had like some nice
best part of his striking game.
Yeah, some nice spinning kicks. He had really good low kicks and like round kicks in general. They were actually pretty damn powerful and fast.
Yep. I mean, Zane was suggesting Sakuraba Belfort for letdown. And yeah, it is obviously a pretty bad fight. And I think one of the first instances of guard pulling Vitor.
Yeah, but you do get to see Sakuraba's kicking game.
Yeah, I mean he's a really good fighter for the era he was in. Like really innovative, like three-dimensional. He's a really good wrestler. Because he's a good low kicker. He can strike he can strike a bit with his hands.
A phenomenal scrambler.
We didn't see a lot of it in these flails, but he also threw good straight punches with timing and accuracy. So it was like, even though he wasn't the best boxer, when he needed to, he could uncork some like good, fast, straight shots. It hurt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this is clear evidence that Kazushi Sakuraba, top fighter, is no longer a thing at this point because like,
Arsene wow. Okay, that should be a knockout. That should be a PKO, Frank.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's like Arsene or whatever his name is. Oh, and a body knee, a leaping body knee.
How is this not
switch body knee?
But
how is this not a TKO?
It's like Arsene was a piece of bread and Kazushi Sakuraba was a seagull at the beach. It's just like.
See, I mean, like Sakuraba's whole submission approach is arms, and you can see. I mean, I give Gilles Arsene credit; he was prepared for that because all he does on the ground is just suck his arms into his chest and not allow any gaps for Sakuraba to grab one.
But this is also
the other thing is that it's obviously a pride thing that Sakuraba is going to the ground with him, like at all. Because every round has started off with him just like getting hit once and then immediately going into a totally panicked shell.
Yeah. Like if Sakuraba had forced him to stand up, he could have knocked him out.
Oh, sure.
Quite easily. Just with a single punch. Like all he needs is to land the right first shot that sends Arsene down. Although who knows? Because is this Yuji Shimada reffing? The most bloodthirsty referee in MMA history? Because he does not seem inclined to stop this fight for anything. Like this would have been stopped 10 minutes ago in the UFC.
Yeah, it probably would have been stopped when anytime Arsene went down to his knees off a couple punches. And
because he's done nothing. He's just taken punishment.
And the arm is about to be ripped free, and there's the tap. Not even extended.
Before the arm even gets extended, Arsene taps. What a fight. What a fight, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, what a bummer. What a mess.
Well, yeah. I feel bad for suggesting Aoki Melendez.
Yeah, that's our follow-up. We're
5 rounds.
5 rounds of Gilbert Melendez just putting the grind to Shinya Aoki. That is what we have in store now. God, why are we doing this?
I stepped up for a moment. You guys have already, like, immediately stopped talking about Sakuraba.
Yeah, we really don't want to spend more time on that fight, and the thing is, we don't want to spend time on Gilbert Melendez for Shinya.
Punishing is the word that comes to mind for this particular episode.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get this underway. Let's not dawdle on it. Starting Melendez versus Ayoki in 3, 2, 1, go.
So was Shields the co-main event? I think it might have been.
Nashville, I think that might be Henderson Shields.
Yeah. Was that the main event or the co-main?
I'm checking. Melendez Ayoki was the co-main. Shields Henderson was the main event.
Okay.
Lawal Musashi started the card out.
Yeah, so this must have been just a great fight, just a great card to attend then. I don't remember it being like Lawal Musashi followed by this and Shields Henderson.
A huge punch and then getting beat by Jake Shields.
Yeah, just dominated.
Oh. We could have just done this main card as
we could have done. We seriously could have done we could have done Nashville Redux
card. It's only a 3-fight main card, so this could have been our thing.
Yeah,
we've missed an opportunity.
The only thing, there's no good bad. There's no good bad. They're all just actually maybe Shields Henderson is
anything with Jake Shields
is a good bad one. Yeah,
kind of good bad. Yeah,
anything with Jake Shields is good bad.
Just because you're watching like a hugely undersized Jake Shields, who's not really better at anything. Well, I guess he's better than a few things, but
And it's Dan Henderson too. This was the sort of when Dan Henderson was trying to figure out what weight he wanted to fight at, and whether he wanted to keep fighting and all that stuff. And so he just kind of looked like this sort of pasty clay golem Dan Henderson, where it was just out of shape and weird. And
speaking of fighters with no functioning knees in their body, latter day Dan Henderson. I don't think Dan Henderson had any working joints. I think he was just entirely made of a creaky wood that was glued together at the parts where it was supposed to bend.
The weird thing was though that Dan Henderson looked he looked at least in better shape for the next few fights after Shields Henderson than he did for that particular fight. That was just some of this weird.
Well, he had a very good first round against Jake Shields. Was definitely latter day Dan Henderson. He just, I think rather than just talking about how old Dan was, I think a lot of credit does have to go to Jake Shields' completely absurd style of fighting for neutralizing him. That is one of Jake Shields' most impressive performances. And it's also one of the ones in which he looks the worst, but survives. That's Jake Shields, man. It's just looking it's his first fight ever and beating one of the best middleweights of all time.
But it was right after that, Henderson went back to light heavyweight and then even had that heavyweight bout with Fedor and didn't hit middleweight again until his Musashi fight. Yeah. And this was Dan Henderson just looked weird in this fight. It was something didn't look right, and he immediately stopped going to middleweight, and he looked much better at middleweight later on when he dropped there. Yeah. Just in terms of
I don't remember how
fitness, not in terms of looking better as in he fought better, but I
can't remember how smug Dana was when Henderson lost, because normally, like, because Henderson felt he was getting stiff by the UFC.
Playing for the whole fight right there.
Yeah, you guys ready?
Oh,
okay,
Jesus.
I'm gonna call around and then we'll let Phil continue. Round 1 begins. We get a nice intense stare down. Mario Yamasaki's here. He's not sure if he's supposed to be reffing or not. Round 1 begins now.
Yeah, because Henderson left because he got stiffed, and he felt he deserved the shot at Anderson. He wasn't getting enough money, blah blah blah. So Dana's rarely happy if that kind of stuff happens. So I don't remember him. I don't remember Dana shitting all over him, but I can't imagine that he wouldn't. Like when he lost to Shields.
I think there were
I just can't imagine him not doing that.
There were a couple of guys that Dana just refused to shit on. Like he would never shit on Arlovsky for leaving the UFC. And I think he probably didn't complain too much about Dan Henderson. Everybody else, but like there are certain guys that Dana respects too much as fighters, I guess. But then again, you'd think like Randy Couture would be in that category, and he's not.
No. Well, Randy Couture also tried to, have a whole lawsuit with them, so that probably poisoned that well forever.
Yeah, he went further than just stepping away from his contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a legal battle embroiled in that.
So anyway, let's talk this garbage fight.
Shinya Aoki throwing a body kick, falling over. Melendez. I think part of the thing for Melendez is that because, like, Melendez is not a bad, he's a good boxer, but he's always a boxer who then wants to chain his boxing into wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you push back against him, he'll have a fun fight. If you're like willing to meet his boxing and wrestling, he'll be an exciting fighter. If you just kind of capitulate and then want to grapple, it kind of leaves Melendez at this odd end where it's like, I don't really, he doesn't really have I'm not just going to sit in the pocket and tee off on you. And of course he just got eye poked horribly. So.
He landed a beautiful right straight to the body, and Aoki instantly poked him in the eye. I'm not going to give Aoki the benefit of the doubt. In fact, I'm going to assume it was deliberate until I see the replay.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume guilt.
Like Jake Shields, you just automatically, or Fabricio Werdum, you just automatically assume they mean to do what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like Melendez and Alvarez, to me, are both guys who evolved to be anti-wrestle, like basically anti-wrestle boxers, Yeah. They're not without craft, but it's a craft designed to fight a specific style of opponent, like the one who's going to trade punches with you, the one who's, who you're approximately equal with them in all areas, so you want to disrupt them with takedowns, Yeah,
Melendez is not the kind of guy who's going to just like walk into the pocket and throw hands and stay there. He's either going to immediately close for a takedown or, throw a punch and jump back out.
The desperation with which Aoki just clung on to Melendez's arm.
Oh,
he made something out of it.
Yeah, he clung onto it so hard. Like Gilles had no choice but to go into his guard. I will point out the replay just happened. We didn't mention it. Aoki hit Melendez in the face with 2 open hands. As Melendez came forward for the right hand, Aoki reached out with his fingers extended, missed the eyes, but then when he got hit in the body, he raked Melendez's other eye with his opposite hand. So absolutely deliberate. 100%, I have no doubt. Here's the thing, too. Shinya Aoki is way better at all the things that he's known for being bad at. He just doesn't, he's not willing to use them. Like, Aoki is an okay takedown artist when he forces the clinch. He's got a judo game. He's not a terrible wrestler, but half the time he just doesn't. He's just like pulling guard. He's so desperate for the easiest possible and safest path to the ground that he doesn't engage in his wrestling. He's got decent technique on his strikes. He can throw. His kicking game is actually quite good, but he's so afraid to strike with anybody that you never get to see it. So Aoki is nice. Right hand by Melendez. Beautiful. This I always liked from Melendez too. He was really, really good at fighting from his knees.
Yeah.
He was one of the best.
Beautiful, like 3 right hand.
Yeah. He did that in his fight with Kawajiri as well, where he didn't want to get up kicked, so he would go to his knees and throw punches from outside the guard. I don't see anybody else do that well.
Yeah, that kind of ground and pound, I mean, it's a real skill that even today, there are a few fighters who have it, and then a lot of guys, their ground and pound is just like get on you and try to keep the tightest position possible, and then figure out how to land strikes. Which,
it's an afterthought. It's more. It's like control and then swing away. I remember talking to Soa Palele, who was obviously very dangerous with his ground and pound, but like I asked him about it, and his approach was like the furthest thing from technical or strategic. It was like get on mount and hit the guy. And there are not enough guys in MMA who approach ground and pound as like its own scientific aspect of fighting. But Melendez is one of those guys. Like Melendez clearly has Melendez treats ground and pound the way he treats boxing, like throwing combinations, creating openings, setting up your shots.
Underrated part of Melendez's game for how far his chin flies up and how ugly some of his combination punching can be is how ridiculously fast his hands are.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of those things that watching tape on him has always shocked me. It shocks me every time I see it. I'm like, his chin flies up, he'll throw both hands at once, and he's like, he's out there like this. Like, in a way, it's like, yeah, I can see that you train with Jake Shields. But his hands are so fast.
He's got craft though, man. He's like his boxing is like similar to the Diaz brothers, right? Like it's not like perfect technique, but he's just clearly a guy who's done a lot of sparring with good boxers.
Yeah.
Who knows, like Gilbert Melendez always had underrated defense, underrated hand speed, his combination punching. He's one of the first guys that you could point to and be like, aside from the Diaz, and be like, look, body punches, lots of body punches. Like Gilbert Melendez was a smartly put together boxer, even when he was not a very technical one. Like he was never textbook, but he had a lot of craft.
The body punches are what I really like about this fight, because he does have the other thing he has a really nice jab. I think he was able to. It was one of the things that basically forced Alvarez to go to the wrestling when they fought. But in this fight, he's using body punches a lot, and that's just a great thing to do against someone who wants to wrestle with you. Because what's he gonna do? Are they gonna shoot up? Like it weirds me out the sheer like lack of things like a body jab that we still see in MMA striking. It's still bizarre to me.
Me and Schwan Humes.
That was a pretty little uppercut as Aoki ran forward.
Schwan Humes and I talk about that like once every 3 months on Twitter. Is like watching Jessica I versus Misha Tate and being like, why didn't Jessica just jab her in the chest? Like that's a great way to stop a wrestler. People underrate how effective good, efficient boxing can be to deny someone the opportunity to shoot for a takedown. Just throw your punches lower so they can't duck into them and they can't force their body through them.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ref. They're like Aoki with his fingers literally inside Melendez's glove, just like hooking into it for dear life.
I love these ankle control round shots around the arms of Aoki, hitting him to the body again.
It's
nice
great.
Frame. He wants to be outside his guard, but also unable to be kicked, and he's got like the perfect strategy to do that.
Yeah, it's really something I wish we saw more of. Part of it too, though, I think part of being able to do that, especially in a fight like this one, I think comes from having a real strength advantage over your opponent. And like guys like Aoki who spend a lot of time fighting smaller guys.
Yeah.
And
also
then,
probably having a guy who really wants to play guard.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously you have to have somebody who really wants to play guard who's not going to rip their legs away and just stand up while you're on your knees.
Yeah.
But I think it also is just, you get a lot of guys too, and we've seen this as people move over from Bellator and things like that, where like you can develop a game that's built around fighting smaller dudes that suddenly when you get to bigger US promotions and people are bigger and stronger, it's like, oh, that didn't work at all.
Yeah, it's dawning on me that may be the most underrated aspect of transitioning to the UFC is that how much bigger the average fighter is in the UFC.
Yeah.
Like it is the home of the most extreme weight cutting, and that may really be why guys like Will Brooks and Eddie Alvarez and Gilbert Melendez don't shine there the way they do in their smaller figuratively, but also literally smaller ponds.
Yeah. Well, and part of that is because the divisions are so big that they force it. Like, you get a couple people who are that big, who cut that much, and it's a slow cascade all the way down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a huge a huge ecosystem, and it means you have to maximize all the advantages in it.
Yeah. And you don't get that ecosystem anywhere else. So fighters can't be like, you can't even prepare for it because Bellator or, Bama or someplace like that, they're not going to have any of that same challenge for you to face. So
I gotta be honest, guys, this fight is not that bad so far, just because I'm getting to watch Gilbert Melendez beat a guy up with his hands.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
I was thinking, we were mentioning Will Brooks, and I was thinking on another note, people who are fighting, anyone who's going to be fighting Chucky Olives, watching this fight, and they should be like, oh, yeah, you can fight this guy by, stay low, punch him in the body. There's ways to exploit the guard,
Very similar to Ayoki is Chucky Olives. Put pressure on him, make him doubt himself. Force the fight without putting yourself at risk. Yeah, you could do that.
And he's very similar. He's a much better, in that he's a much better takedown artist than advertised. He's got this kind of clinch, kind of clambering all over you takedown style, which has taken down a lot of people.
A lot. Okay, I gotta say two things here. We've missed. Aoki landed a great step in there, but I also really like Aoki starting to kick Melendez in the shoulders with his heel kick him in the shoulders.
Yeah,
and in the
it's a good adjustment. It makes sense to genuinely good adjustment. Melendez though has this really sneaky way of popping up off of his knees and leaping into a strike from that position.
It's like Cobra jump.
It's like Fedor. It's very Fedor-esque.
Yep, very Fedor-esque. Yeah,
it's like Fedor with Nog, big Nog, pushing him away with his guard, but then just leaping over his legs to land a shot.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was thinking of how a lot of the guys that are really great at ground and pound aren't known for ground and pound. Fedor being an exception, but
Anderson Silva never got enough credit for his killer ground and pound. Nor does Matt Browne. Matt Browne, a very good ground and pound artist.
Nor did GSP. GSP's ground and pound is always
People just complained about how boring he was, but creating posture, controlling the opponent, setting up damaging strikes. GSP was a monster in top position.
Yeah. And add Gilbert Melendez to that list because you can, watching him, man, does he have a well-built game for it? Just
that Kawajiri.
I gotta say, I'm agreeing with Connor. I kind of feel like you let us down on our letdown. I'm buoyed by this. This has been pretty fun.
Everyone hated this fight. You couldn't even remember it. I feel justified.
I mean, Aoki is getting eaten alive in a contest that should have been either a knockout or a really interesting scrambling grapple fest, but instead it's just being an interesting case in domination. Aoki coming hard here, though.
I mean, it is a classic. It is a classic letdown fight.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
It is, because if someone had said Aoki Melendez, you'd be like, oh, what round did it get finished in? Was it 1 or 2?
Yeah. Was it a shocking submission or was it a knockout? And it's it was just a 5-round scrap that didn't, Melendez dominated most of. I got to give credit, though, to Aoki for rushing right out and trying for his game immediately out of the gate. He doesn't have the best implementation of, obviously pulling guard and all that, but he's still doing exactly what he feels like he needs to do.
I mean, Aoki is, to me, maybe one of the most successful I guess he's not really exactly one-dimensional, but
he makes himself one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is one of the most
Aoki butt scooted confidently.
he butt scooted, and Yamasaki was about to stand them up, and so Aoki was like, "Oh, he's gonna stand him up," and just got clocked with a right hand. And then
why did Yamasaki stand them up?
Because Aoki was butt scooting, and Yamasaki was impatient.
So but then Melendez jumped in, and then he decided to stand them up anyway.
Yeah, because he was going to stand them up anyway, which is why Aoki was pissed.
Yamasaki does not get enough credit for being one of the worst refs. Let's be honest. Makes a lot of terrible calls.
Oh,
I really enjoy this. Like this knee ground and pound is great. I'm really liking it.
Yeah. It's very unique.
And unfortunately, Melendez was backing off there. He clearly had a strategy, and Yamasaki's like, "Oh, I'll just stand him up again." It's like, no, I want to see Melendez play this more.
Yeah.
It's so clearly a strategy he has going.
If Aoki wants to butt scoot, let him butt scoot.
Yeah. In terms of kind of attributes, you get a lot of like one-dimensional grapplers, and you'd think, so Aoki's probably, I don't know, maybe one of the 20 best lightweights of all time.
He's up there, yeah.
Yeah, but it's probably relatively easy to say. And you'd be like, okay, he doesn't really strike much. He can a little bit, but not really. He can wrestle a bit. Yeah, he can. He's a better than advertised wrestler. But he's an all right. He's an amazing grappler. You'd be like, okay, so he must have a great chin. And you'd go, no, his chin was trash. Like, no.
One of the most successful fighters with like obvious and dramatic limits. Some of them self-imposed. Like, good wrestler, but the reason that his wrestling isn't given its due is because he doesn't use it enough. Like half the time he would pull guard on somebody that oh my god, this is like Fedor versus Nogueira.
Yeah, it looks identical here. Like,
Jesus Christ. Aoki just desperately trying to knee shield to create space, and it's like the worst thing he could do because Melendez is happy to fling himself forward and to land those shots.
And unfortunately for Aoki too, this is a position where, like, if it were in Japan, he would be sliding through the ropes.
Yeah. The cage is death for a guy who wants to slide out of the ropes.
Yeah, he'd be getting a reset, and he would be getting out of this position without eating all these shots. He could wriggle backwards and be out the ropes, and then get a reset.
Ooh, he landed a knee.
Oh, he landed a chin. Yeah, counter knee. I have to say, like, the ropes are the worst.
They are.
Yeah.
The worst.
The cage is like really corny, and it's one of the more embarrassing aspects of trying to get someone into MMA because it looks like pro wrestling, but it is at this point, I think, a fundamentally important part of the modern MMA game. Like, it's a really interesting wrinkle that other combat sports don't have, is to have a solid wall against which to fight.
Until we get like force fields, I think that would be the.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can replace it with. The thing is,
has anyone ever tried plexiglass?
My God, can you imagine?
Yeah, I think it gets incredibly disgusting.
It would be disgusting.
Apparently it just gets incredibly gross. But yeah, so like there'll be people saying, the cage favors the it's because it doesn't have corners for people to get pushed into. It's like, make a square cage.
Yeah, you can make a square cage.
It's nothing saying, like, I'm sorry, ropes are dumb, like, for MMA. They're just not good. Like, and I know there's a lot of, nostalgia with them for being in, because of Pride and so on. But that could have happened with, like, anything. And I know it changed the strategy of the fight and so on and how things. But again, that could have happened with anything. If Pride had been, like, fought on the surface of a bouncy castle, people nowadays would be like,
we need to bring the bouncy castle back.
Yeah, you need to bring the bouncy castle back. That's what MMA needs. Like, remember all these guys that were so good at using the bouncy castle? And remember that you remember how Mark Hunt innovated his ground and pound by using getting extra like height on his butt drop and all this kind of stuff, and people would have developed tactics for the bouncy castle, and they would be able to defend their bouncy castle tactics. But the thing is that it wouldn't have obviated the point that a bouncy castle was dumb. Just like ropes.
I just think this is all an argument to bring back the Yama pit. That's really what this is.
That's the real. That's where the real MMA happens. Just people rolling down into the center.
Bring back the Yama pit and periodically grease parts of it, but not tell people which
But don't
parts.
tell anyone. Yeah.
You're walking, trying to tread around the sides of it, and you hit the grease part and just slide right into it.
I think the Yama pit should have had no flat part in the middle. It should have just been a cone. So literally no even ground to stand on. I think if there were a bouncy castle, Shinya Aoki would have found ways to like pop it, to like put a hole in the bouncy castle during his fight to gain an advantage.
He would. He absolutely would.
He would have like grown out his toenails so he could like poke a hole in it and deflate.
That body
that was a
beautiful
knee.
Beautiful.
Also, are elbows in Strikeforce at the moment?
Not to the head.
I don't think they are.
No, you can only throw them to the body, just like Pride.
Because they got joined. They got put in for Kawajiri Melendez, I think.
Yes. Yeah. He destroyed Kawajiri with elbows.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were. That was after
when we were mentioning his ground and pound. When we were mentioning his ground and pound, I was thinking like, yes, he annihilated Kawajiri.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the Zuffa era of Strikeforce.
Yeah, I think that was Gilbert Melendez's peak.
Yes.
Like, you know, everything we saw in the UFC has been, you know, I think that fight was probably the best we'll ever see from him.
Aoki with the jab there caught Melendez like 3 times as Melendez was coming in trying to do his 1-2 both arms out, chin up. But
imagine how good Shinya Aoki could have been if he knew he had an entire MMA game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just afraid to use it. Like, he is the most squeamish striker, despite the fact that, again, like in a lot of areas of technique, he's not that bad at it. He just doesn't want to do it.
I think that makes him such a great like uber bully in MMA.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like he just doesn't even, you know, he doesn't even want to humiliate you in other ways. He only wants this one type of humiliation that he can get, and everything else will break him.
And it makes the humiliation he receives infinitely more satisfying because he's so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. He's just great, really. I'm just glad that MMA has him. He's just like, because he's like a Saturday morning cartoon villain in his own way. You know, like he's like the henchman.
Oh God!
Why is Yamasaki?
What's going on? What?
What the fuck is happening, Yamasaki?
I think this was Yamasaki was going to stand them up again, and Melendez hit him right as Yamasaki was going to stand them up.
Oh my God. Are you okay?
So I remember in the Jordan Breen chats back in the day, someone came with the best like there was like it was in like the Halloween it was around Halloween, and someone was saying like, oh yeah, we tried to go to this Halloween party dressed as the Yamasaki twins, but we got stood up. And it's great.
We got stood up.
Oh,
that's good.
So Aoki's clearly still rocked here, and Melendez still annihilating him. But man, Yamasaki, I don't know what happened in there.
Is it possible?
Yeah,
we don't have the audio. Is it possible that for both of those he had called break, and that Melendez even perhaps timed the call for break, or that it was just bad luck?
I think it's just bad luck, and it was just a dumb break call. Like,
yeah.
Like, I get it. You don't want a guy to just butt scoot the whole fight, but like if he's trying to engage, it's MMA, man. Let him engage.
And the opponent is coming in, like the ref has to be in a position where he can't just be sitting and watching the butt scoot guy ready to stand him up. He has to be seeing both of them at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I was saying about Aoki, he is basically like Starscream from the Transformers, or like
yes. He is absolutely Starscream.
You know,
he is Aoki is the sniveling what's the word I'm looking for? Like the viceroy who like betrays the king. He's just like
The
desperate
Grand
for power,
Vizier.
but the Grand Vizier. That's what I'm looking for. He's the Grand Vizier of Japanese MMA, who's like not as clever as he thinks he is, but constantly trying to overthrow. Oh man,
yeah. He just
that
needs
was
some like little weird sidekick monster that he orders around.
Melendez thought he had
Oh,
won
Will's
the
gone
fight
up.
there. No, I'm here.
Well, yeah, because he was getting pulled off of a clearly knocked out opponent, and then Yamasaki's like, "No, I was going to wave him up." It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yamasaki is just a terrible referee. He's often unremarkable, so you don't notice, but he has like truly Mazzagatti-esque moments of shit showness, where it's just like completely destroying a fight by constantly interjecting himself into it.
So we were talking about like kind of the idea of like organic versus like systematic counters. So like one of the ones we've seen in this fight is that Melendez has clearly just drilled stiff arm left hand right uppercut to stop the level change.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's done it like several, like as soon as Aoki tries to come in, it just comes out like clockwork, and that's great. Like so much of this is
And now now Melendez poked him in the eye on that stiff arm left hand.
I want to see a replay on that. I'm not sure if that was an eye poke. I never trust Shinya Aoki.
No.
When anything foul worthy comes along, I never trust
you, Melendez.
Oh, this is all part of his strategy. To be
now
like
I just
knocked
want to do
out.
the rest of to talk the rest of this fight as Aoki in that voice.
That's Starscream Aoki.
My plans have been foiled this time.
I'll be back though. You haven't seen the last of me.
Yeah, definitely the fading away voice that is the one.
As he gets uppercutted out of the cage by Gilbert Melendez. Disappears, a twinkle in the sky.
Yeah.
Vowing revenge as he disappears over the horizon. Oh my god. I have enjoyed this fight, I'm gonna be honest. Like
I have too. It's better. It's a good fight.
This has been really good.
Watching Gilbert Melendez dominate the most, like there's no one is more satisfying to see dominated than Shinya Aoki, and then watching Gilbert Melendez in his prime do it is good. It's nice.
It would be like if Anderson Silva versus Talos Leitez was actually Anderson Silva versus Josh Koscheck.
Yeah.
That would be the emotional resonance.
Josh Koscheck, like pre-throwing punches Josh Koscheck.
Yeah. Well, just in general, in general, the same Josh Koscheck, terrible personness. He
constantly pretending he'd been fouled. Yeah, that's Koscheck and Aoki really are on another level with the fake fouls.
And I always loved Koscheck in that way because every now and then he would insist that he was not an asshole. He was like, no, I'm not a terrible person. Like, I'm not. People think I'm a jerk, but that's not me.
I'm really very likable.
Like nothing ever said or did then transformed that opinion. Ever.
Just this eye-poking, fake fouling, arrogant douche.
Yeah.
Like Josh Koscheck is great though.
The knee against Paul Daly is one of the all-time great fake fouls.
And the knee against he did the same thing when he fought Rumble.
Yeah.
A knee that totally missed his head, and he played it up and had the doctors come in and complained about his eye. Yeah, he milked it so hard, and it was a knee that, upon replay, like Joe Rogan in that fight is amazing. Just like investigating the replays, like, hold on, wait a minute, hold on, let's see that angle again. Let's see that again. Like he is just pantsing Josh Koscheck on TV. He's like, that knee did not land. It didn't land. It's just like humiliating him with his commentary.
Well, and of course, too, the whole thing with the Daly fight was apparently that he was saying a bunch of terrible shit to Daly the whole time, which is why Daly was so furious.
But yeah, like I just remember like, was it Daily or was it Rumble? Yeah, just like the knee, his blonde, and it just wibbles afterwards, and he just goes.
Yeah, yeah. That was the Rumble one. It hits it glances off of his forearm with both hands up, and his blonde afro wobbles, and then he just has like the most shocked expression, like as he flops to his back trying to play up the It was like a badly choreographed movie fight where like the punch obviously misses and then he flies backwards a second after it should have landed.
It was a soccer flop.
It was a definite soccer.
Yeah.
Melendez just going ape on Aoki.
Really angry.
The fight's almost over, and he's so mad that he hasn't finished.
He's calling Aoki up. No, that is not going to happen.
He wants him to know. I think
he's just like, no.
I think he wants him to butt scoot so he can nail him with another uppercut.
Yeah.
Oh, Melendez.
Oh, yeah.
Just
come on. Classic Gil.
Crazy.
Classic Gil.
Like, I just want to be on the ground. Leave me alone. Curse you, Scrap Pack!
Oh man, soon I will be the ruler of the Scrap Pack.
It would make a great 90s cartoon.
Aoki thinks that the Scrap Pack are like his minions. He has like a Dennis Reynolds mentality where he thinks he's like a god to these people, and he's just like an embarrassing, one-dimensional kid who gets bullied.
Oh, now I'm just imagining like a Legion of Doom headed by Aoki and Josh Koscheck and just these horrible MMA villains.
132 strikes to 18.
Oh my God. Lord.
80 ground strikes to 12. Melendez just fucking opened up shop on Shinya Aoki. I enjoyed that a lot, actually.
I did too.
You haven't got one submission attempt, as far as I'm aware.
No.
No.
Like, he got one. That one right at the beginning. He got that one armbar attempt at the beginning.
And that may have even been more of like an omoplata sweep attempt.
Metal Militia. I do not miss seeing that as a sponsorship thing, like lightning bolt S's. And then
we started on kind of a high note, and we had this lull in the middle that was just kind of depressing, honestly, for being real. And then the last 30 minutes of this were all high note. That was just too much fun.
Yeah.
Was Metal Militia one of the brands, Phil, that had like SS imagery?
Well, yeah, you could kind of see on the.
That's kind of.
It's one of those ones where I don't think it was as bad. It wasn't like one of the really bad ones, but it was one of those ones where it was people like, "Oh yeah, it's just showing respect for the German military." You know, we really enjoyed their, the imagery of them, and it's like the S's in Militia. The S in Militia looks like a lightning bolt, and you've got
it does. And the whole the whole military skull thing, that was a very Nazi thing. The skull military imagery, maybe they're not. It's the sort of thing that it flirted with white supremacy at a time when MMA. A lot of people were like, MMA is all about white supremacy.
It was. It's like that Mitchell and Webb sketch where they're the Nazis, and he's like, Hans,
are we the bad guys?
We have skulls on our helmets. Are we the bad guys?
And maybe when our opponent is marching under the banner of a rat's anus, we will be the good guys.
See, I always thought the big Nazi brand was Holzer Reich.
Yeah, Holzer Reich.
No, that was the big one. That was the really bad one.
That was the one that wasn't even like a question. That was just like, no, that's a neo-Nazi brand in MMA.
It's ironic, though, that Metal Militia, like the most famous people to wear that brand were all the Scrap Pack dudes. So, like, this SS imagery on just a bunch of Latino guys.
Yeah.
And Jake Shields.
And Jake Shields, who is like the picture of the modern neo-Nazi, just like a dork, some guy. Jake Shields. If Jake Shields were not a fighter.
Jake Shields been fighting against. Jake Shields was like, who was he? Oh no, he was going up against like. He had that.
He was getting into fights with Antifa guys at a Trump rally.
Yeah. Riot Shields.
Riot Shields.
That's terrible.
That's great.
It's the worst fucking pun.
That was what
That
I
was
titled
great.
that was what I titled the If I Did It episode. When I for the imagery.
Ryan Shields
Oh
is perfect.
Lord. All right. On that note, we got to close the show before we get too far into the weeds on this whole thing. So you can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Phil on Twitter at EvilGregJackson. You can find Connor on Twitter at BoxingBush. That's BUSCH. You can find all three of us over at Bloody Elbow in our various capacities. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like. That's a thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com. DOTCOM. That's where you get all the latest Bloody Elbow shows, videos, interviews, analysis, all that good stuff. We'll be back next week with another MMA Depressed Us because there are no fights next week or no major cards next week. And we will also, I believe, Eugene's on tour, so I don't know about Knuckle Up or If I Did It, but Heavy Hands will be back and maybe another Vivisection if there's a small show to talk about. But I think Bellator is off. So
I think they've got John subbing in for John Nash subbing in for Eugene at the moment.
Yeah, if they can get John back on for If I Did It, it'll be back. And otherwise, all our other stuff. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot more for you. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in.